Hello everyone and welcome to another very nice game from round 8 of this year's Norway Chess. It's Viswanathan Anand versus Teimour Rajabov, and this is their Armageddon game. The classical game ended in a draw, well, it's a very tricky game, so you guys will enjoy it, I believe. Let's dive straight into it. Anand has the white pieces and he opens with e4. We have e5 by Rajabov, knight to f3, we have knight to c6 and bishop to c4. Anand goes for the Italian game and bishop to c5. The Giuoco Piano is on the board, asking Anand, do you maybe want to play the Evans Gambit? And Anand has faced the Evans Gambit over the board. I even made a video on it. It was in 1995 against Garry Kasparov. Kasparov defeated Anand with the Evans Gambit. So if you haven't seen that game, do check it out. It will be the first link in the description below. I made the video in 2017, so it's in the older format that I was using, and it's only at 30 frames per second. So if you guys think that the video deserves a remake, maybe we could also do that. But just in case you're wondering if people play the Evans Gambit like ever. But that was in 1995. And nowadays, well, we're still waiting for confirmation from our Silicon friends that it's okay to play the Evans Gambit. The computers are still not strong enough to actually confirm this, but we are getting there. So here we have c3. Anand goes for the main line of the Giuoco Piano, considered strongest by today's standards. Knight to f6, and now pawn to d3, the Giuoco Pianissimo. We have d6, and now bishop to g5. This is not extremely rare, but it's much rarer than the usual castles. So bishop g5, testing Rajabov's preparation. We have h6, bishop to h4, and now pawn to a5, preventing b4. We have knight b to d2, and now bishop back to a7. So when d4 comes, it will not come with a tempo on the bishop. And here the position has been reached before. For example, even Radić defeated Anish Giri last year in Croatia when it was a part of the Grand Chester with a3. But here Rajabov continues, Anand continues with castles, and we go into the game Adiban versus Vidit that was played in the Tata Steel India Rapid Edition last year. So here, as white castle, now you might be thinking, okay, let's go after that bishop. But we have pawn to g5, and now bishop to g3. And here, as this is an Armageddon game, we just have castles, as it was played in the game Adiban versus Vidit. And usually when you have the Italian game and your opponent castles kingside a little bit too early, I think there's a Steinitz game where Steinitz himself explains how this isn't all that impressive, because black can just play h5. Here you can't really, because, well, not only is the f7 pawn already attacked, but knight captures on g5 will come with a tempo on f7. But even with this, it could still be an interesting move if it was like a casual blitz game between, you and your friend. Let's say knight captures on g5, and now h4. And now, okay, if the bishop wasn't here, this would be great, but now it's problematic. Of course, we don't capture with the bishop, we will capture with the knight, but still, it's a very interesting idea. We just play queen to e7, and once white captures the rook, now we capture the bishop, and once h captures, here comes bishop g4, and black is getting a lot of pieces here into the attack. The bishop is beautiful, the queen can easily go into the game. We're going to castle queen side, get the rook into the game. With perfect play, white is fine, but, it's just interesting if you guys were wondering what happens if you just push h5 here. But okay, here Rajabov castles. This is again the main idea here, and now not a3 as was played in the game Adiban versus Vidit, but here we have a rook to e1 by Anand, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. So knight to h7. Maybe preparing to also push f5. You can't do it right away. First, maybe you're going to play king g7, then f5, but the knight is basically there to just keep an eye on the g5 pawn. And you can start pushing your h pawn next. So here we have h3, h5, and pawn to d4. As they say, the best counterattack to an attack on the king side is a counterattack in the center. So here, queen to f6, developing the queen into the attack, and now bishop to b5. Rajabov's knight is actively fighting for the center, so here Anand will just remove one of the attackers. We have h4, challenging the bishop, bishop to h2, and now Rajabov makes a breakthrough here with g4. H captures, we have bishop captures, now pinning the knight on f3, and the bishop captures on c6. We have b captures, and now Anand says, okay, you're pushing on the king side, but I don't believe you have anything here. I'm just going to play here queen to a4 and go after the c6 pawn. Also, the a5 pawn is attacked, so you have to be careful here. But Rajabov just continues with h3. And it's a very, very tricky position to play with white. But what I find fascinating about this is that Rajabov, whenever he plays with the black piece, he just attacks. He attacks, he attacks. And even here in Armageddon, where a draw will suffice, as a draw in Armageddon is basically a win, he still attacks with the black pieces. So okay, here Anand plays bishop to g3. A bit safer was rook to e3 because you will need this rook to attack, defend, and counter-attack. But here Anand plays bishop to g3 and now queen to h6. And now you're saying that not only is my h captures on g2 with great tempo, the threat will be queen to h1 checkmate, but also you can't really move this knight because then this knight hangs, and you know, if you move this knight, then maybe this knight will hang since we're going to pick up this pawn. So here Anand captures on h3 instead. We have queen captures on h3, and now rook to e3, just getting that rook to help out with the defense along the third rank. And now it's a very difficult position, but black's position is to be preferred. However, you have to play something like queen to h5. Even f6, a silly move like this, will also be fine for black, but it's very difficult, and of course Rajabov does not have all the time in the world. So here he played bishop to d7. It looks like a very natural move. You're gonna continue your attack on the king side. Maybe you play king g7, rook h8, you go after queen to h1. Many ideas are possible here, and also you don't allow any counterplay for white because this is no longer an option. However, you blunder the game completely because now Anand has a very specific move that, well, Rajabov is very, very familiar with this move, as one of Rajabov's most famous games features this move. So, you know, feel free to pause the video and try to spot it while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you that were who were able to do it, congratulations on realizing which game I was talking about. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, the move is of course knight captures on e5, as Rajabov once played only with the black pieces, but still. And now, what do? You just lost the pawn, and what do you have to show for it? The bishop is also being attacked, so how do you defend? Okay, the queen is defending it. You don't really have to do anything about it, but let's say you play king h8, you just want to start an attack. We're going to play knight captures on d7, and after queen captures, king g2. Now we bring this rook into the attack, and it's impossible to defend this for black. Let's say rook g8, we're going to play rook to h1, and now king g7. We want to hide our king to safety here. Bishop to f4, of course bishop to h6 being the threat, so king to f8 opens up a discovery here. Now rook g3, offering a trade, and now let's say captures, and you get this position where okay, it's not that big of a deal material-wise. White is up only one pawn, but the black king is completely naked here on f8. The bishop doing nothing, rook doing nothing, the knight hanging. If you move the knight, rook to h8 is coming. It's a terrible, terrible position for black. So you can't really ignore the knight. So here Rajabov has to capture. He plays d captures on e5, and it is the strongest move. Now comes bishop captures on e5, slicing through the king side and also attacking the queen, but worse than that is that you know rook to g3 check is coming. So here we have queen to h5, the only way to defend, and now rook to g3. So the king does not have any squares. The only thing you can do is put something in between the king and the rook, and here bishop to g4 is played, which blunders the game completely. But I'm just going to show you what happens with the absolute best defense, that is knight to g5, because the line is just spectacular. Bishop to f6, of course we pile up on the knight. Now comes king to h7, unpinning and preparing to bring the rook into the game. Bishop captures on g5. If rook captures on g5, this is nothing. We just pin the rook with rook to g8 and black is back in the game. But with bishop captures on g5, now it's a little bit bit different, because now after rook to g8, we have this strong f4 move. We defend the bishop, and now king to g2, rook to h1 is just a terrible threat. So here we would have f6 attacking the bishop. Now queen to c4. Incredible stuff. F captures on g5, and now king to g2, preparing rook to h1. So bishop to h3 check, the only way to avoid this. Rook captures on h3 now, seemingly winning the queen, but not really, because g captures on f4 opens up a discovery, and now comes the spectacular idea behind queen to c4, because you guys were most likely wondering what the hell is queen to c4. Queen captures on g8 with check. That's the point. Rook captures, and now we simply move our king. We're gonna pick up the black queen on the next move, so we might as well capture here. Captures, and you would get this position where okay, it's an endgame. White is up only a pawn, but it's completely winning endgame for white. White has only one pawn island. Black has 3 pawn islands. Black's position is completely busted, and you will very easily win these pawns. The bishop has no good way of entering the game, so it's as if black is already down a piece. So even with perfect play, it would still be very much winning for Anand. But after bishop to g4, it just game over in one move. Anand plays queen to d1, and he was in this position on move 25. Yes, 25. We've shown quite a few lines, but it's actually only 25 moves that Teimour Rajabov resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So we're gonna capture this, and that's it. One way the position might continue. Also, yeah, you might be wondering why did Rajabov play bishop to g4? Why didn't he spot queen to d1? He probably thought that after bishop to g4, maybe he could trick Anand into trying f3. It seems like it's also winning, but then he would have queen captures on e5. It's a nice cheapo, and you know, weirder things have happened, but Anand of course spots this, plays queen to d1, and of course here Rajabov resigns, because after something, let's say f6, we can just trade with check, queen g5 check, captures on g4, king to f7, and now it's a bishop captures on c7. White has 6 pawns, black has only 3. Also black's pawn structure is ruined. This is completely winning for white easily. So yeah, after queen to d5, queen to d1, Rajabov resigns, and another spectacular victory for Viswanathan Anand in the Norway Chess 2022. And I'm sure you guys are very much interested in what this means for the standings. So here are the standings after round 7. Maybe during the video I said round 8, but yeah, it's actually round 7. Magnus still leading the tournament, but only by half a point ahead of second place Viswanathan Anand with 13 points. With 11.5, we have a tie between Maxim and Shahriar Mamedyarov. Then with 10, Wesley So. Aryan Tari with 8.5 after winning that game against Magnus. 8 points, Anish Giri. 7, Veselin Topalov. Wang Hao with 5.5, and Teimour Rajabov last place with 5 points. I'm sure you guys are wondering how much is Rajabov actually saving of his preparation for the candidates. Well, we will find out in a few days. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and like I said, if you guys want to check out that game, Kasparov versus Anand featuring the Evans Gambit, do check it out. It will be the first link in the description below. It's an older video, but again, if you guys would like a remake of that video, also you can comment on this video or on that one, and I will definitely consider it. I will probably do it even if you guys don't request it, but you know, just checking. So yeah, once again, hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Evalia and Lego, Charles Huff, Nagarjuna Ponugoti, Timo Salo, and David Kimura for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of Norway Chess until it finishes. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.